So we are reading chapter 12 for our book, Toby. And I'm trying to think of some books that we can maybe read in the future because we only have about 4 or 5 days left. So we're going to have to see. We're going to have to find something to do. A few days later, Mona and I were training on the lawn again when Patsy came out to visit us. Fran wants to see us both, Patsy said to Mona. About Toby? Mona asked. I could feel her anxiety spike, so I licked her hands. What else? Patsy said with a sigh. I followed Mona and Patsy into Fran's office. Fran was sitting behind her desk, and there was something new in a corner. It was big and reminded me a little of the metal cages some of my friends leaned on when they walked. I went over to sniff it. It did not smell fun. Patsy settled down on the little couch, but Mona was too nervous to sit. I tugged at her shoelace. What's that? Mona said, eyeing the metal thing. A compromise, Fran said. While Mona and Patsy looked at the metal thing, Fran went on. I know you've been training the dog more. Has it worked? Can he be a reliable therapy dog? Mona sighed. He's getting better. That's not what I asked. Well, no, not yet, Mona admitted, but everybody loves him. They really do. He's been walking with people on the treadmill. They do more PT when he's there. Were we going to the treadmill? My ears perked. So I've seen, Fran nodded, and I admit that he was helpful with Dorothy the other day. So here is my compromise. Toby can stay. He can stay? Mona burst out, her face lit up with a smile. Oh, thank you, Fran. I jumped up on my back legs to lick Mona's hand, wanting to join in the happiness. Besides, her fingers tasted like treats. Fran held up a hand. You didn't let me finish. He can stay, as long as he remains in the crate when he's not working. He can help the other residents on the treadmill. He can play with the children who have relatives in the hospice wing. But other than that, he's got to be in the crate unless you're training him. We can't have him running through the halls anymore. That's final. Mona's happiness drained away. In a crate? He's never had crate training. He won't understand why he's being shut up. And he hasn't done something wrong. He's just got a lot of energy. Nevertheless, that's my final decision. Yes, ma'am, Patsy said. I sat down and leaned against Mona's leg to make her feel better. Once all the people were done talking, she and I could have a good game at chase. That would fix everything. That night after Mona fed me dinner, we played in the TV room for a long time, wrestling with a rubber bone. It was excellent. Mona usually left right after giving me my food, but today she didn't want to go. Mona, Patsy said, time to leave. Oh, Mom, Mona said sadly. She let go of the bone, and I seized it in my teeth and ran around the room in triumph. I hate to shut him in there. He won't understand. I know, but he'll probably just sleep, honey, and you can let him out in the morning. If I'd just trained him better. I feel like such a failure, Mom. No, Mona, sweetie, you're not a failure. Listen, we adopted Toby because the rancher told us he was mellow and calm. That turned out to be a mistake. He was just tired from being ill, and now he's better. That is not your fault or anybody's fault. Mona stood up, and Patsy hugged her. You've been working so hard with him. But you've learned a lesson that's good for a trainer. You can't go against a dog's breed. You can't train a beagle not to run. Mona sighed and hugged her mother back. Then she came to my side and pulled the chew toy from my teeth. I thought we were going to play more tug. So exciting. But instead, Mona walked me down the hall to a little room where my bed was kept. To my surprise, the metal cage from Fran's office was in my room now, and my bed was inside it. So were the bowls of food and water. Most bewildering of all, Mona tossed the rubber bone inside the open door of the cage. What an odd way to play. I mean, of course I ran to grab the toy, but when I turned around so Mona and I could wrestle, she shut the door of the cage in my face. Bye, Toby, she told me, and her voice quivered. See you tomorrow. She departed very suddenly, leaving me behind. People are odd sometimes. But, well, food is food. I dropped the rubber bone, stuck my nose in the bowl, and began eating in big gulps. Soon I'd finished dinner and licked the bowl clean. That was when I realized I can't get out of the cage. I pawed at the door and nudged it hard with my nose. I barked so Mona would understand she had made a mistake. Then she'd come back and get me. But she didn't come. No one did. I tried getting my teeth around the wires. They tasted cold and bitter and horrible, and no matter how I chewed or tugged or twisted, I could not make them move an inch. What had happened? Why was I shut in here? Who was coming back to let me out? If I truly belonged to Mona, she would not have left me in here. That was such an awful thought that I'd have to go back to my bed and lie down. But I couldn't sleep, so I began to chew and tug at the soft cloth that covered my bed, just like I chew on my feet when they itch and ache. So Mona was not my person. Was that really true? Would someone else come and let me out of here? Eddie, Patsy, Tyler? The cloth of the bed ripped and something white and fuzzy popped out. It did not taste good at all, but I still nipped at it. Then I trapped it under one paw and pulled at it with my teeth until it came apart in shreds. I don't know why I did these things, but they made me feel a little better. After some time had passed and my bed couldn't be chewed anymore, I got up and bit the cage, but it only hurt my teeth and mouth. And still, nobody came. This was dreadful. I had never felt so alone, so abandoned, so lost. I could not stand it. Somehow, I knew just what to do with feelings like this. I sat down, lifted my muzzle, and let the sadness out in a long, mournful sound. "Aroo!" I howled. I did it over and over again. Finally, the door to my small room opened. Light from the hallway spilled in. There in her wheelchair was Dorothy, Granddad pushing her, leaning on the handles of her chair. "Toby!" Dorothy said. I stopped howling. My tail even stirred to life. My friends had come. Thank goodness. "Good thing I've been spending all that time on the treadmill with Toby," Granddad said, wheeling Dorothy. "I don't think I could have pushed this contraption otherwise." "There, can you get Toby's cage open?" A couple of other friends were standing in the door, looking in as Granddad moved Dorothy closer to me. She reached down and opened the lock on the door. In a flash, I shoved the door open and barreled through. I was out. I was free. I put my front feet in Dorothy's lap and licked her gentle hands. I raced around Granddad and licked his knees. I greeted all my friends in the hallway and then ran, skidding around corners, sliding into a wall, jumping and running more. Maybe I belonged to Granddad and Dorothy. Or maybe I didn't. I still wasn't sure. They'd come for me, though, and that was all that mattered. I was free, and I could have fun with all my friends, and I would never go back in that cage again. Never. All right. So let's see. We have 4 chapters left. Okay? So I will read chapter 13 for tomorrow.